It's the Daily Doug.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug. Thanks for being with me today. My friends, you've arrived on a Friday. It's a Masterpiece Friday today, even though we've been taking a week off this week, a well-deserved week off. We've been providing y'all with some pre-recorded reactions this week. I very much hope that you have enjoyed them. And I promised on this Friday to release a full Extended Play Lounge episode from our Patreon. This is when we go to a full album and I listen to the entire thing and tell you what I think. I put up a poll here on YouTube, and we got over 7,000 votes. Thank you very much for your participation here. And A Farewell to Kings from Rush has won our poll. It won out over The Raven That Refused to Sing from Steven Wilson, the Yes album from Yes, and Tommy by The Who. So some pretty great company here. And y'all have picked A Farewell to Kings from Rush, and I'm happy to share it with you. Now, A Farewell to Kings from Rush is my 70th episode in this series, y'all. And so if you like this, you like this style of full album reaction, get into the Patreon at least the middle tier, and you can get access to all of these episodes and a lot more. We have a lot of fun over on our Patreon, and a lot of that footage never gets to YouTube. Very exclusive over there, so enjoy that stuff. But for now, I am happy to share my reaction to A Farewell to Kings by Rush. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug for what is going to be our Extended Play Lounge episode number 70. Y'all, 70. We've been at this for a while, 2 a month. You can do the math. I love doing these full album reactions, y'all. I look forward to them when we do them twice a month here on Patreon. And this time, y'all have selected A Farewell to Kings from Rush. So that is what we are up to. I have enjoyed getting to know the music of Rush, obviously, over the last few years. We frequently come back to their music. I've now heard several of their albums in their entirety. We started episode 2, y'all, Extended Play Lounge episode 2. We started with Hemispheres and included Cygnus book 1 in that one because I wanted to hear the whole saga. I didn't want to start with book 2. Right? I wanted to start with book 1. So in that very early episode, we took a look at the last song from this album as well as all of Hemispheres. And that was the last time that Rush appeared in the Extended Play Lounge. It's now episode 70, and it's only the second time for Rush. So it's good to come back to this awesome Canadian trio. Other albums that I've heard from them, we've done over on YouTube. I heard Moving Pictures, Permanent Waves, and Signals. 3 really great albums all in a row, and those are still available on YouTube in the half an album at a time format, so I encourage you to take a look at those if you haven't already. After hearing Closer to the Heart on YouTube back in April, that was my latest reaction to music from Rush. I've had my eyes on this particular album, which is why I included it in the poll this time. And I wanted to go back and catch the really great songs that I heard way early on that I don't really remember a lot of, and include these other songs on the album that I haven't yet heard. So it's going to be great to hear it in its original context. So the album was their 5th, and it was released in August of 1977. And it looks like a really quick turnaround. They went into the recording studio in June and July, and just the next month the album was out. They had experienced critical and commercial success with 2012, their previous studio album, and with this one, they were starting to expand their instrumentation, especially with the synths and those bass pedals. We also get a nice mix of songs here. Xanadu and Cygnus X-1 Book 1 are longer tunes. And we've got some really short ones, radio-friendly songs like Closer to the Heart and Madrigal, although I don't know if Madrigal received a whole bunch of airplay. Those are, by a comparison, quite a bit shorter, right? So, lastly, we get a pretty decent cliffhanger at the end of this album. We get To Be Continued in the album's liner notes as we end Cygnus X-1 Book 1. And the Rush fans at the time were forced to wait until the next year to see how Book 2 concludes that story. So we're going to come back and hear Cygnus X-1 Book 1 as we conclude this album. We've got Geddy Lee on the vocals, on the bass. He's also on the 12-string guitar. He's on the mini Moog, and he's on some bass pedals. Alex Lifeson is on the electric and the acoustic guitars, as well as some classical style guitar, and also on some bass pedals. And Neil Peart is in the back holding it all down with some drums and percussion, including orchestral bells, a bell tree, wind chimes, a vibroslap, a triangle, a tubular bell or two, and some temple blocks. So these guys are among the best at it, y'all. Y'all know that. That's why you voted for them. And it's going to be great to get back to music from Rush. So side one starts with the title track of Farewell to Kings, and I think this is going to be my first time hearing it. Lyrics are by Neil, and it reads to me as an encouragement to us to turn away from leaders like kings who can only let us down, and to look inward, look inward for our morality and what drives us, and what's important to us. So that's what it sounds like. So let's get off to it, y'all. A Farewell to Kings from Rush. Here we go. Starts kind of old style, kind of looty, Makes sense. We're talking about kings and stuff in the old times. No. So that's E minor, B minor, minor 5, flat 6, 7. This is beautiful. Some pitch percussion in the background. Lovely. Into the modern world, y'all. That was an 8. Some 7s, some 8s.
When they turn the pages of history, when these days have passed long ago, will they read of us with sadness?
Flat 6 to 7 to
we turned our gaze
major
from
5.
the castles
Fun.
in the distance. Eyes cast down on the path of least resistance.
Young Geddy singing for us at bright high voice. I hear that as 1, flat 7. So I think A for now. That was subtonic to 1. Cool. The hypocrites are slandering the sacred halls of truth. Speak truth to power, Neil.
Can't we find the minds that made
They ask what's wrong. Woo! Tell us. It's a raw guitar sound, isn't it? Just I think that's just a whole bunch of A's down a G. I think back to A.
Cities full of hatred, fear and lies. Women, hearts and cruel tormented eyes.
Scheming demons dressed in kindly guise, beating down the multitude and scoffing at the wise.
Beating down the multitude and scoffing at the wise. Oh, can't we raise our eyes and make a start? Can't we find minds to lead our souls up to the heart?
How about that? He scooped his own song. Six, seven, 2, 3, 4. That now sounds like the 4 chord. Huh, and it goes to relative minor. What a fun tune. A lot going on there. It's a classic Rush tune. There is color around every corner, isn't there? Let me look back through this. When I was saying they scooped their own song, the outro, can't we raise our eyes and make a start? Can't we find the minds to lead us closer to the heart? Stay tuned for side 2, y'all. Let's see. Verse 2, the hypocrites are slandering the sacred halls of truth. I made that line bold so I would make sure that I pointed it out. That jumped off the page at me. So in the first verse we get, we turned our eyes from the castles in the distance, ice cast down on the path of least resistance. Castles in the distance. So when they talk about kings, a farewell to kings, you're talking about a revolution into democracy, I think. With the king, it's just whatever the king says goes. And so we turn to the king or the leader for our source of meaning, you know, for our own, we get our opinions, our morality from whatever they say, right? Because we are ruled by that. There is no democracy. There is no the people want this or the people want that. It's a farewell to that. And it's been a long time since that sort of system was proliferating. Shit, that's not a good word at all. You guys know what I mean. It was widespread throughout Western Europe especially, you know, and yeah, it's been going on since the times of kings and castles. They only have power because we give it to them, you know, or allow them to continue having it. So I think it's an encouragement, like I said, to break away from that and take back truth from those who make it in their own image and make it for themselves, you know. and get us closer to the heart. It'll be fun to follow that up if we can once we get there. But there is another song in between, and it's called Xanadu. Now, Xanadu holds a very special place in my heart. It was the very first song by Rush that I reacted to on the channel. I started reacting to music in late January of 2021, and this was episode 62, February 19th, 2021. It was very early on. It was the first one that I heard, and I remember very much liking it, right? It started me on my path with Rush, so it's good to come back to it. I haven't heard it but maybe once or two times since, so it'll be good to get back to this song. I was reminded when I read in that it's inspired by the poem Kubla Khan, or A Vision in a Day, by the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and that was originally published back in 1816. And Xanadu here is the capital of the Mongol ruler Kubla Khan. And I think at one point Marco Polo, travels there, but that's where they're drawing some influence for this story as we talk about Xanadu. So let's get to it, y'all. Here is Xanadu from Rush. Off we go. Those are those temple blocks. It's got a very orchestral opening to it, with the drone down there and some shades of color just starting to fill in the scene, you know? Subtonic. Re, do. It's almost a chant. Tubular bell comes in. Pretty sure that's an E again, y'all. I remember that this had a pretty long introduction. I didn't remember what it really sounded like. Are we augmented? That's a big 4. 6, 7. So E goes up to G. G then is a 4 to D. D then is a 4 to A. And then A is a 4 to E. Sets up. Not quite. Not yet. Still on the A. Right, but that sets up, that move to G sets up descending force all the way back to E. Just anticipating that. That's still in this sort of regular 4 here. Check it out. When I went to the official playlist for this song from Rush's channel on YouTube, for a few of these they give us videos or video footage along with the song. But I'm pretty sure it's a studio recording with these visuals helping us out. Lands an E. Should be a drinking game. Every time in a video I say they're in E. We surely wouldn't make it to the next day's workday. Hooray. Those tubular bells, why'd they keep them out? That was cool.
To seek the sacred river out, to walk the caves of ice, to break my fast on honeydew and drink the milk of paradise.
Flat 2-1 there.
I have held the whisper tales of immortality, but the best mystery from an ancient book I took a clue. I scaled the frozen mountaintops of eastern lands unknown. Time for none man alone, searching
For the lost city. That I remember. It's amazing. The actual hook is the thing you remember. And I remember Xanadu. I think that'll come later. I don't know. They give a stately sound, don't they? Those big, tall bells.
Decreed by Kubla Khan to taste anew the fruits of life, the last immortal man. Find the sacred river out,
The sacred river Alf to walk the caves of ice. Back up to where they started. That sounds familiar. Great riff. Froggy riff, which you can build on top of it.
1,000 years have come and gone, but time has passed me by. Stars stopped in the sky.
So this music we've heard before. Play it, Neil. It's like they go to flat 3 and then flat 7. And then stay there. So that becomes a D.
Held within the pleasure dome, decreed by Kubla Khan to take
milk of paradise. But is it paradise? Let me go back. So they've been around D and then move up back to E for this last section, I think. There's the synths coming in. Just amazing how symphonic they are with just three of them. Last little flat 7 to 1. No, flat 2 to 1 as they came down to land on that. They did that once earlier. It's so good, isn't it? A really cool way to end. I mean, prog rock, the definition of it, y'all. I mean, from what a trio can give you, right? I mean, we've heard prog rock. I mean, Genesis with the three of them, right? But early on, it was a bigger band. Yes, is a bigger band. And it's just amazing to see what they can do with just the three of them. Continues to astound me because it means that they're really honing in their voicings, and there's not an empty space that isn't filled by, there's not a gap in their sound, Everything that you might have wanted from progressive rock is there for us in that first side. Asymmetric meters, changing tempos, a really cool bit of lyrics, a little bit of mythology in there. It's just great. It's just great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. I will say this. I'm glad there are people that are like, you've heard this. Why are you going back and doing it? And it's almost like you're hearing it for the first time, right? So was the first one a joke or insincere? I'm like, so I've heard some of that, y'all. And this is why I come back to these songs. Think about it. Y'all who are fans of these, y'all have heard these for a lot of listens. A lot of times I'll hear it again while I'm editing it. I'll hear it again while I am at a premiere with all of y'all. But after that, I move on and I'm on to the next tune. And I typically don't come back and re-listen to a bunch of these because my ear's tired because I've done that day's work. So I had misremembered this song. I was getting Xanadu and La Via Strangiato mixed up. I remembered that Xanadu had a longer opening, and I was picturing the opening to what's the other one? Now it just left my head. Shucks. La Via Strangiato. I was picturing that one as the lead-in to Xanadu, and I wasn't remembering it correctly, or I was half remembering it accurately and half not. And so now it gives me an opportunity to just have a second shot at it, to be reminded of it. And once I get into it, I'm like, oh yeah. But just trying to pick it out of thin air, it's a difficult thing to do. for me. So I'm happy to go back and hear, especially these really great songs, especially prog rock. I love prog rock, you know, and to hear be reminded of the intricate nature of the songwriting and of the performance itself. It's really cool. So, with all that being said, let's get over to side 2, y'all. Let's have a good time. Side 2 starts with Closer to the Heart. And remember, this was a pretty recent reaction for me. It was episode 764, just in April of this year. And for me, like I said, I think it's, now that I've heard the title track, it's almost like a continuation of it. So we're trusting ourselves to look inward and try to find the heart, right? Try to find that context and meaning, you know, individually from within. This song, as we remember, is the first Rush song to include an external co-writer named Peter Talbot, who was a friend of Neil's. And this ended up being the band's first real big commercial hit single. And it still receives quite a bit of radio airplay. And I think that's where I had heard this before. This one was enough that I couldn't get away from it. So I had heard this before reacting to it a few months ago, and I'm relatively familiar with it now. So let's go back and enjoy. It's a relatively short song, especially for Rush. It's Closer to the Heart, and it starts side 2. Off we go. Hi, Getty. There's those bass pedals, right?
And the men who hold high places must be the ones who start to mold a new reality closer to the heart, closer to the heart. Blacksmith and the artist reflected in their art. They forge their creativity closer to the heart. Yes, closer to the heart.
Really need a rival early by them with that phrase. And I love all of the percussion in this. Adds so much.
Each must know his part to sow a new mentality closer to the heart. Yes, closer to the heart. Yeah.
Neil's such a fucking good drummer. Extended 5, right? So he can choose to play with the syncopation or play straight against it. Just a personal preference, right?
Sailing into destiny, closer to the heart, closer to the heart, well, closer to the heart, yeah, closer to the heart, closer to the heart, I say closer to the heart.
With the length of their songs, it can almost be a postlude or a coda to the title track. It's like, that's what we were talking about before, you know? Because they start with, and the men who hold high places, those are the kings, must be the ones who start to mold a new reality. You know, for this really to work, unless there's war and revolution, it has to be those kings and those leaders, you know, the men who hold high places. They got to be the ones to start. And then the blacksmith and the artist will reflect it in their art and forge their creativity, you know, and then it's going to start happening. Philosophers and plowmen, each must know his part. This song makes much more philosophical sense now that I've heard the title track. it just kind of clicks on a deeper level, and that's really exciting. I love it. Love it, love it. So, let's keep going. Friends, Cinderella Man is up next, and Getty wrote the lyrics to this. The story in this lyric was inspired by the movie Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. I read that Getty was a pretty big, or is a pretty big, movie buff. This is a classic movie from 1936. It's directed by Frank Capra. It stars Gary Cooper and Jean Arthur. And the basic story, as much as I could see, I haven't seen the movie, y'all, or read the story, the short story, I think, on which it was based, which was published just a year before. It's where a man who has relatively modest means ends up inheriting a fortune, comes into a bunch of money. And he's a good and decent person. And his hope is to do as well as he can with his money. For himself, for those around him, for his community and all that. He's an upstanding person. He wants to do the right thing. But, of course, those that are around him are seeking to gain access to his fortune for their own enrichment. And they don't have his best interest at heart. So let's see what happens with Cinderella Man. It's going to be fun. Okay, I've got it. Okay, good. It's all set up. Now, here is Cinderella Man from Rush. Here we go.
Traveled rich to the city. He had a need to discover
That was cool.
a use for his newly found wealth. Because he was human, because he had goodness.
He was human, he had goodness,
moral, they called him
because he was moral, and because of that they called him insane. Ha!
Visions of splendor, a manic depressive, he walks in the rain. Eyes wide open, heart undefended, innocence untarnished. Cinderella Man, doing what you can.
That's 5 of 5.
They can't
To minor 5?
understand what it
Or-
means. Cinderella Man, hang on to your plans.
5 of 5.
Try as they might, they
minor 5
cannot
to
steal
4.
your dreams.
To 1.
Well,
It's a proggy kind of tiptoed through the progression. That was nice. And then this is more sustained.
the betrayal of his love he awakened to face a world of cold reality, and the look in the eyes of the hungry awakened him to what he could do. He held up his riches to challenge the hungry.
See?
Purposeful motion for one so insane. They tried to fight him, just couldn't beat him.
Tried to fight him, but they could not beat him.
Who walks in the rain.
It's 1 and 4. So that A is in a 3/4, right? It's in the A chord, it's in the D chord. Just an open groove. I think Getty's playing funk and Alex is having a good old time. Neil's just playing right down the middle.
Doing what you can.
That's so
understand what it means. Cinderella
So, D to A, up to B minor, then down to E major. E is dominant to A, but it's A minor, which breaks down where we've been. But it stays there somehow. I'll have to hear it more times to get that. That's really cool. I think they end in D. Cinderella Man doing what you can. They can't understand what it means. Cinderella Man, hang on to your plans. Try as they might, they cannot steal your dreams. It's an uplifting story. You know, a person of relatively modest means comes into a bunch of money, and it doesn't change their outlook, their morality, because maybe they've gone closer to the heart, and maybe Cinderella Man is better for it, and he doesn't fall into the trap of what other people are trying to trick him into wanting to do and doing, right? How about that? Fun. Okay, Madrigal is up next. So the only bit of information that I grabbed for this was that I found a quote that Neil wrote in the Farewell to Kings Tour book. And it says, "We mellow out for a moment on a light little ballad entitled Madrigal, which is a love song nicely touched with haunting synthesizer melody, and the drums are recorded in the echo room." Okay, so maybe the drums are going to sound farther away to us. We'll see. And he says that Getty turns in a nice vocal on this one as well. Lovely. It's a relatively short tune as well as a short bit of lyric. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 2 stanzas of 8 lines. There's not really a verse and a chorus. And I'll be really eager to follow the text as we hear the song. So let's do it. Madrigal from Rush. Here we go.
Slay with pen or sword, I grow weary of the battle, and the storm I walk toward. When all around is madness, and there's no safe port in view, I long to turn my path homeward, stop a while with you. When life becomes as barren and as cold as winter skies, there's a beacon in the darkness, in a distant pair of eyes. In vain to search for honor, and in vain to search for truth.
Secondary dominant.
But these things can still be given. Your love has shown me proof.
I love the whole thing of this. It goes into places that I'm not expecting. Sonically, it's very intriguing. It's also very beautiful, and I like the melody quite a bit as well. I want another crack at the lyrics too. When the dragons grow too mighty to slay with pen or sword, I grow weary of the battle and the storm I walk toward. When all around is madness and there's no safe port in view, I long to turn my path homeward, to stop a while with you. When life becomes as barren and as cold as winter skies, there's a beacon in the darkness and a distant pair of eyes, in vain to search for order and in vain to search for truth. But these things can still be given. Your love has shown me proof. There was a time, 2014, I was approached by the director of the Westminster Choir, whose name was Dr. Joe Miller. He's now at the University of Cincinnati, which is a very fine conservatory. And Joe, we haven't kept in touch so much, but he was a good friend and a good colleague, and is a high-powered choral director, and he was seeking to include some of my work in their upcoming year, and he asked me if I would write a song or write a choral piece for the Westminster Choir for their upcoming season. And he said that the idea of his idea for the program is to have songs that are on the subject of love, but not necessarily love songs. And he was looking for, texts and pieces like that, and I was eager, obviously, to write something for such a fine ensemble. The piece that ended up becoming is called "The Eternal Promise," and I turned to my friend Tony Silvestri, who is a wonderful poet, and his work is quite often used in modern choral settings. He's a brilliant mind and a lovely person. And he wrote me this sonnet that was about love. And I haven't returned to that subject for a choral piece before, but I get goosebumps and the ideas of sound and stuff when and I want to write this. I want to set this poem. That's gorgeous, y'all. Neil's amazing, isn't he? Absolutely incredible. I'm taking time here just because I'm just wanting to sit with these words for a minute. It's a beautiful little song. When I come, I've done this my whole career. You just search for text. This isn't too long. I could probably write a 4 to 6 or 7 or 8 minute piece based on a text that's about this long. When you get a really long text, it becomes very difficult to write unless you're writing a huge work, But if you're searching for, what we would call an octavo, is like a relatively short piece for a varied program by a choral ensemble, a poem like this length is one that I go, ooh. And especially when it starts, when the dragons grow too mighty. I'm like, yes, what are we talking about now? That's brilliant, friends. It really is. How great. I think I have a favorite on the album. And it's the little song called Madrigal. But I want to hear Cygnus X-1 Book 1, The Voyage, again as well. So remember, friends, this is the last one on the album. Thanks for being with me. This is fun. And that was a really touching memory and a lovely moment. I recorded in August of 2021 as part of the very early on second overall Extended Play Lounge. All the way back in August of 2021, I recorded my reaction to this song as a lead-in to Hemispheres. We were doing Hemispheres, right? But like I said earlier, that starts with Book 2, and I didn't have the the pleasure of hearing book 1 first. So I went back and heard it, and that was fun. And like I said, I don't think that I've had an opportunity to go back and really hear this again. I think I cut it together for a YouTube episode sometime after that, and I heard it again at that point. But since then, I don't think I've heard it. So I don't remember hardly anything about, at least right now, as how the music sounds. So I'm eager to get back to it. As we remember, the story centers around a black hole known as Cygnus X-1, and our explorer aboard his ship, the Rocinante, right, from Don Quixote, the horse, right, journeys towards the black hole, believing that there may be something beyond. And as he gets closer to it, it becomes increasingly difficult to control the ship. That's right. And he is eventually drawn in by the gravity that is there in the black hole. And the final words of book 1, he describes his ordeal. Sound and fury drown my heart. Every nerve is torn apart. And then it says to be continued. And the story continues in book 2 in the next year on the 1978 album Hemispheres, right? So that is our remembrance and setup for Cygnus X-1 Book 1, The Voyage. Let's finish out this really fantastic album. Off we go. The percussion work is astounding. It's just next level. The imagination.
In the constellations of Cygnus, there lurks a mysterious invisible force. The black hole of Cygnus X-1. Six stars of the Northern Cross, in mourning for their sister's loss, in a final flash of glory, nevermore to grace the night.
Is that the liftoff? So we're in the prologue, and then there's going to be parts 1, 2, and 3 as we go here. The sustain without much vibrato, but maybe like an echo or like a wave, reminds me of the space of space, right? How it might sound like a simple tone that just is never ending. I remember the bass. Do-dum-bum-bum. Do-dum. There's 3 of them. Did I make a joke in the earlier video that it sounded like Getty was trying to start his lawnmower? That's what came to my head. But I thought, have I said that before? So 8s and 7s maybe? 6 plus 5. It's like it's mirrored, shorter and shorter than longer, right? It's like long, short, short, long in terms of the changing meter. That's a tritone move.
Invisible to telescopic eye, infinity, the star that would not die. All who dare to cross a cause are swallowed by a fearsome force.
Swallowed by a fearsome
Through
force.
the void to be destroyed, or is there something more? At the minds, at the core, or through the astral door.
Those are fourths.
I said a cautious east of Lyra, northwest of Pegasus, flew into the light of Denham, sailed across
505
the
to
Milky
5, that's
Way.
it.
On my ship, the Rocinante, wheeling
D
through
major,
the galaxies, headed for the heart of Cygnus, headlong into mystery.
Headlong into mystery, y'all. They're on their way.
X-ray is a siren song. My ship cannot resist how long. Nearer to my deadly goal until the black hole gains control.
The X-ray is her siren song. My ship cannot resist her long. Nearer to my deadly goal until the black hole gains control. Okay. Sounded like soulmate coming down. So those, I think, are C's. If it comes back, lay T do, A flat and B, I think. And the bass is doing something completely different. That's cool. If we think of bitonality or two tonal areas at once, that's what we're talking about. And then they just merge together. Hang on to your buckets, y'all. Danger.
Spinning, rolling, spinning, sending like a spiral sailing.
It's not having a good time, y'all. 5, and the T. Sound and fury drowns my heart, every nerve is torn apart. That's a chromatic third. So cool. That's a fade out that I don't mind. It's meant to be a cliffhanger. And musically at the end it's a question. They're shifting, right? Is it going to be this that happens? Is it going to be this that happens? Is it going to be this that happens? It could be this. Here's this. Here's this. The chords are shifting around, where they share a note, so they can pivot on a single note, but this chord and this chord do not share a key together, right? So I think what I was hearing was C minor as like the where we start, you know, the tonic bass, and E flat in that key would be an E flat major chord, but you make it an E flat minor chord instead. So C minor and E flat minor both have an E flat in common, right? The third of one chord, the tonic of another, but there's a G natural in one and a G flat in the next. And that's the pivoting makes sense to our ears because there's common tones, but there's also chromatic shifts that we're not used to hearing, and it provides a little bit of, ooh, that's a new area. That's a new area. It's not just like 1 4 5 1. It's this new area, new area, new area. There's new keys. And potentially new tonics that are thrown into the mix, so that we're not still thinking about this one as home base and just kind of all these others kind of coming around back to it. It's on a subconscious level that I'm thinking about this, y'all, because if you learn when as you go through all of this and you're learning how, at least in functional tonality, how one type of chord can lead to another type of chord, can lead to a tonic, and the hierarchy of the progression itself makes subconscious sense to us because we've heard it so many times and because it's reinforced in the harmonic series. And you get used to that storytelling, and when something kind of breaks off and goes in the third route instead of the fifth route, it can become quite interesting, and it breaks down that sense of stability and key to the where it's just the only way that we know what home base is the repetition and where things fall on strong beats. That's it, because it's not the subtonic leading to a subdominant leading to a dominant leading to a tonic, whatever type of chord within that context that we're using. That's fascinating to me how they constructed that to go into that next album with that big of a cliffhanger. I think that's pretty ballsy, right? I wonder if they had the rest of it kind of worked out, at least, or I wonder if Neil had the rest of the saga worked out in his mind. They may not have musically had it at this time, or maybe it was just like, we're going to write part 1 and end it there, and then we'll see what happens next year when we come back to the story. I don't know. If any of y'all know, I'd be interested in hearing, for sure. So as I looked into it, they really got to extensively tour on the strength of this album. Their Farewell to Kings tour took them around the world for 140 shows. It's a big time investment in time and in resources. It was their most extensive tour to date, and it was the first time that they got to headline and play in major venues. That's really cool. And they did take some excerpts from this tour the Farewell to Kings tour and include them in the expanded 40th anniversary box set of this album, A Farewell to Kings, and that was released in 2017. That would be something that I would love to get at some point. That sounds really fun. So that's another album down. So we've heard Hemispheres, we've heard Moving Pictures, we've heard Permanent Waves, we've heard Signals, and now we've heard A Farewell to Kings, all of it. What's my favorite? I don't know, y'all. I'm still basking in the glow of just how proggy and great all of these songs are here, and I really loved Madrigal. I'm going to go back and listen to that. Neil's writing, as usual, his words are among the biggest strengths of the band, and it's a band, I think, without too much weakness. Geddy's voice takes some acclimation to get used to, but once you do, he's an excellent singer. He sings rhythmically, he sings emotionally, he changes his color, he changes his timbre, he sings and he's got a wide range, and he's a damn good instrumentalist. Playing his bass the way that he does and doing all of the synth stuff, especially on stage, live, doing it all. It's pretty remarkable to me. And Alex is a great guitar player, a good rhythm player and solo. He almost like plays rhythm and solos for himself at the same time. It's a really interesting way of playing that I love, and Neil is unrivaled as a lyricist and as a percussionist, I think, in the history of rock and roll. There's nobody quite like him, and it's a sad thing that he's no longer with us, because I would love to hear some of his wisdom and music in current times. It's just too bad that he's not here anymore. When he passed, I wasn't... Of course, I'm a fan of the band. I know who they were, but it didn't touch me like I think it would have if I would have known all this music and really enjoyed it. So I can only imagine the heartbreak that was for all of y'all, and how it's a continuing heartbreak. And, it's one of the realities of us now being in the 2020s, and a lot of this music was written in the 1970s. There's an age gap there, and it's real, and it's staring us in the face, and it's scary at times to know how long it is, because when I think of seeing Back to the Future in 1985, I couldn't imagine how long ago 1955 was, and if we would have do that now, they'd be going back to my junior year of high school, and that freaks me the fuck out. But time marches on, and thankfully we have all of this great music to accompany us and help us along our way. That's one of my recurring things. The art, that's why it's here. It's why we go to such lengths to make it and to come back to it, because it does something to us, right? It brings us closer to the heart. How about that for coming full circle? That's going to be fun. Okay, we did it. So I think that's going to be all for me today, my friends. It's a lovely album. I'm glad you picked it. It's A Farewell to Kings by Rush. This has been our Extended Play Lounge episode number 70. Thanks, y'all, for being with me. We'll see you next time on another edition of the Daily Doug.